What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Super Earth Mama podcast. My name is Ashley, and I am so excited that you're going on this journey with me. Today, we're going to be talking about reprogramming, the most important thing that we ever need to worry about controlling, the mind. Why do we need to reprogram the mind? Well, there are so many people out in this world with the belief system that they can't control their feelings, they can't control their thoughts, that everything is influenced by the people around them and their environment. And therefore, they take no responsibility for the control or the modulation of their thoughts and feelings. I'm here to tell y'all, if you can reprogram your mind, because you can, and you start this work today, right after this podcast or even during this podcast, you will be a completely different person than ever before. Most importantly, you're no longer going to be a slave to your thoughts. You're no longer going to be a victim to your thoughts or to other people's perceptions of you, because you are going to bring into a very clear scope who you are and what you're about, so that when somebody says something that makes you doubt yourself, you can always go back to that reprogramming of the subconscious. Or like, no, that's a lie. That doesn't feel right. That's not true. And therefore, you decide what's true to you. Now, if you're being a dick, of course, that's a totally different thing. We all can be dicks or bitches or whatever you want to call yourselves in those moments. But the key to moments of dickdom and bitchiness is owning up to it after the fact. You know, you're able to reflect on why you said what you said and what aspect of your childhood, because most likely it's your childhood, was triggered by the conversation or the interaction and made you feel you needed to respond in the way that you did. Now, it's really difficult for us as human beings to understand that we have the power to reprogram the mind, or that we even have power over our mind, because we're not taught in Western society or many societies in general. You know, Eastern philosophy will teach this, but I'm not sure they necessarily teach children. However, they do teach them about the afterlife and, you know, past lives, and that's amazing. But when they are a spiritual family in the East, they do teach them about their thoughts and being able to direct their thoughts. But when we learn how to reprogram our mind and understand that it all started in childhood, I'm sorry, but it did. You know, there is nobody in the subconscious mind. It's very important to understand that. There's no one who is pulling the strings. It is all your subconscious belief that was constructed from early on. Now, when does the subconscious programming begin? This is the biggest aha moment people have. And specifically, pregnant people should know this, because our children develop their nervous system. They develop their sense of safety and their concept of the world from the womb. There it is. From age 0, so even the moment of conception, to 7, we are in a brain state called theta. Theta is a somewhat hypnotic state, which is why children are so easily susceptible, which is why our government and the media go after the children, because if they can condition them at a young age, they will have them for the rest of their life, unless they come across this podcast and other podcasts or, you know, videos by Bruce Lipton, who I freaking love, and they learn, well, shit, okay, that was a bunch of BS, and I can reprogram myself to be the person that I want to be and no longer be a slave to my past. So from age 0 to 7, we are in a brain state called theta. The high suggestibility is a gift. It's meant to be a gift because we are sponges for information. So when we are born into a family that is, you know, mommy and daddy are balanced, they've worked on their own wounds, they know that I may trigger them, but it's not my fault, and I'm never made to feel that it is. And if I ever feel that way, they own up to it and apologize. Oh, that was not my childhood. But it's the childhood I'm trying to cultivate for my daughter. And it comes from a place of knowingness that we are her environment. We are her entire world. Mama starts as the universe to her, or any baby. And then once she's born into the world, I'm going to refer to her as a she, because that's the baby that I have now. And then I have one growing in me, which I think is a she. We will find out. I feel like it's a she, and we have a name, but we're not going to say it yet. But if it's a boy, no big deal. I love boys. I would love to be a boy mom. And, we have an amazing father figure for that baby to grow up with. But when we are very young and we are in an abusive household, maybe we're taught that we can't count on people for our basic needs. Maybe we're not fed. Maybe we're not held. Maybe we don't know that we're loved and nurtured. Maybe our fathers weren't there. Maybe our mothers weren't there. We were raised by people who had no blood connection to us, no spiritual, mental, emotional connection to us. They were just given a check and told to keep me alive. Or maybe we were born into a family that loved each other, but had severe wounds from their own subconscious programming as children that showed up as parents, because let me tell you something, children trigger whatever wounds we have not healed from our childhood. It is absolutely true. And we can go into that in another podcast. But we were taught that we had to only rely on ourselves. So we started this lone wolf mentality, or we started believing that maybe we just had one or two friends that we could count on, and we didn't like going home. And so we started doing things that weren't safe for a child to do, like dumpster diving because we needed to eat. Or, there are so many things that children are doing now because they believe they cannot count on the people who are supposed to take care of them. It is every single child's birthright to be loved and nourished. And I don't mean nourished by food. I mean nourished by information, by just being wanted and felt that they had a feeling of belonging from a very early age. That gives a child a sense of presence. They give them the strength to be independent enough to make their own decisions as they get older, because they were given this backbone as a child. Nobody has a perfect childhood. I mean, I've met people who have had perfect childhoods where nothing happened, and God bless them. But for the most part, they're boring. So I'm grateful for my messed up childhood, but simultaneously, I don't want my child to have that experience. Now, she definitely doesn't have a boring childhood because, my husband's an astrologer. We have hundreds of tarot decks. Like, she is working with oracles. She sees mommy doing her woo-woo stuff in the kitchen, woo-woo stuff in the office. We are definitely not a boring household. However, whenever we try to make friends for her, she has nothing in common with them. But that's not a big deal because children are children. The problem is the parents think that we're evil. We're not evil. But that's also their own subconscious programming that they were taught when they were little, that people who do tarot or astrology, that's against God and it's the devil. And I'm like, oh, God, the devil is a construct of the Christian church. Please get over yourself and educate yourself. But I also know I have to have compassion for these people. So I'm just not going to, try too hard. But that's also my own subconscious programming. I grew up in a household where I was the fixer. I was the one who, when mommy and daddy were rageful with each other, I had to be the one that got in the middle and tried to fix things and tried to console my mother and tried to keep my dad from leaving. And it was a scary childhood at times. But I also, at 7 years old, begged my mother to divorce my father. Not because I didn't love my father, but because they sucked together. They sucked. They could not keep it together for like one day. And I was like, why are we fighting now? Oh, the remote. Are you serious? You guys are freaking kids. But then I learned later on that they are, because they had fucked up childhoods. It's all a cycle of abuse that continues unless we break that cycle, which is what I'm doing in this life so that my child doesn't wear the wounds of my childhood. And you can do the same thing. And you don't have to be a parent. You can be any age after 7. But how do we reprogram the subconscious mind? We have to understand that it's a program. We are computers. Therefore, it's a computer that's recording data from age 0 to 7 in this brain state of theta. So eventually when we get older and people are like, you're just like your mother, you're just like your father. Like, yeah, because that's the person who programmed me. And then we can start to see our parents as just flawed individuals like ourselves who didn't have the tools or the means to learn this knowledge. I mean, our world is going to be such a better place once we create self-healers around the globe. And if we start with one thing, even as an herbalist, I'm like, we gotta deal with the mind first because the body is the slave to the mind. So when there is a cascade effect of issues, it starts with our thoughts, our fears, our beliefs. So the subconscious mind is simply a construct of beliefs and information that we gained from early in life. When we reprogram the mind, we have to go back into a state of theta. How do we do that? Well, there you can do hypnosis. I actually have my first hypnosis session this Thursday because I have this fear that I've had ever since I was little, and it probably comes from being a victim at age 2 of SA by my babysitter. But it's a sense of safety, and it was triggered by my baby being born and being very fearful that I could not protect her and having this sort of warped thought that my husband wasn't going to be there to protect us because my dad left. So I have these issues. I know my husband's not going to leave, but these are all things that I become trapped in this cycle of thought, this circular thinking that I've had most of my life. And how do we break that cycle? Well, I'm having somebody help me with it because as a mother, I don't have time to, we co-sleep. So my baby's in bed with me. So I can't listen to podcasts or videos or motivational speakers while I sleep. However, you can listen to this podcast while you sleep and you can understand that you are in control of your mind. Every thought you have is a direction from the subconscious programming. Once we become in control of the subconscious programming and to learn to remove ourselves from that fear bubble for me or from that self-loathing bubble for others, you can see that, oh, that's not real. That's just something I've believed my whole life, but I'm safe in my case. I have nothing to fear. I live in a safe area. Even if I moved to Compton, which I would never do just because I would be too paranoid. Or, like the projects where my husband was born, I would be more afraid there, mainly because I have children. But that's also my own ignorance to never having been to Compton and only seeing like movies where people are shooting each other up. And that's probably not real because entertainment is entertainment. And even the news and TV, it's called programming for a reason. So be very careful what you watch and read. Read books like one of my favorite books is Diana herself. It has so many amazing things that you can learn about spiritual truths that have an applicable process to your daily struggles as a human being. Love that book. The body controls the mind, the mind controls the body. The body keeps the score. That's another great book. Oh my gosh, there are so many wonderful books to help you understand the science behind all of this and that will help you realize that, Becoming Superhuman, that's another great one. And, when it comes to being able to reprogram the mind, you can do it so many ways. Reading, watching certain TV shows, stop watching violent shit. Like if I watch anything that's violent, fast forward because I don't need that in my head. I don't need that to be a reference point for any fear that I need to validate later on. Well, I saw it in this, even on TikTok, even on social media, you have to be very careful what you believe because people are wanting to get likes. People are wanting to entertain. And, unless you see the person doing what they said happened, I've decided not to trust it. But listening to podcasts like this or listening to Bruce Lipton is amazing. There are so many wonderful people. Tony Robbins is another person that's very inspirational. But you want to understand Wayne Dyer. Oh, love Wayne Dyer. But you want to understand that you need to be in a relaxed state. You put your headphones on, you go to sleep, and you listen to these podcasts or these people speaking. And there's a specific one by Wayne Dyer that I recommend to all my clients, not all my clients, but specific clients. It is a Wayne Dyer talk, and it is titled, I Am God. Yeah, that one's amazing. But the important thing that you have to believe right now, today, and forever and always is that you have the power to reprogram your mind at any time. It doesn't matter. You no longer have to be a victim to your childhood, to the subconscious programming. And that's why I'm here. I'm here to free you from it, my loves. And we can start right now with simple breath work and setting an intention. So let's take a breath in through the nose and out through the mouth gently. One more time, in through the nose and out through the mouth gently. One more time, in through the nose. And this time I want you to let it out through the nose. And we are calming the nervous system. And through this work, we realize we come into the present moment because the present is a gift. And we can come back to this state of being in the knowledge that we are in control of our thoughts, our hearts, our minds, our future, if we simply take the time to breathe into the moment and then make a choice from a place of calm, balanced knowledge. That is where we must start. And when we start from a place of balance, with love for ourselves and the goal to share love with others and be a vessel of love and a vessel of knowledge for others, that is just, when we come to a place of service, life gets so much easier. So I want you to say with me right now, I have the power to heal myself. Say it again. I have the power to heal myself. I am in control of my thoughts and my feelings. And from this day on, I take the responsibility of my joy and of my independence. I am now free from any shackles of the past. And whenever I feel tethered to it, whenever I feel pulled to that comfortable place, because what's familiar is comfortable, which is why I call this work, because it's not going to happen overnight. You need at least 21 days to form a pattern in the mind, because neurons that fire together eventually wire together. So we're creating neuronic pathways of new knowledge, of new power, of new evolution. You are upgrading your brain and your body by doing this work. So I hope you join me on this. I am doing this work every day. And sometimes I don't have time to do much. So I'll simply, if I have a moment of frustration, I do that breath work and I remind myself that I am safe. So if you have some sort of addiction, if you have some sort of fear, if you have self-worth issues, replace that fear with a truth. The fundamental truth is you are miraculous. So simply say, I am a miraculous being. When you connect to that, nothing can get in your way, even you. All right, my friends, if you're interested in working with me, link in bio. I do wellness, herbalism, tarot, psychic readings. It is my purpose in this life to teach people this work as well. So I teach psychic development. I teach tarot, deep dive tarot, y'all, because I'm all about the deep waters of our psyche. So I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and don't forget to mother yourself first. Thanks so much, guys. Super Earth Mama out! Super Earth Mama, Super Earth Mama. Ah! I think that's the one.